The next dish I'm going to prepare on this program is a dish called Moi-Moi. It's a ubiquitous dish that is eaten throughout the length and breadth of Nigeria. Now, beans is one of those mythical foods that we said is prevalent in West African cuisine. We talked of plantains, and plantains being a symbol of fertility. Beans in West African mythology symbolize abundance, it symbolizes prosperity, and there is the belief that a household or a community that eats copious amounts of beans invariably will have a large preponderance of multiple pregnancies, especially twins. Now, these are black-eyed beans that is used for the dish I'm talking about, Moi-Moi. It's essentially a bean pudding. What has now happened is that the cuisine is moved on, and so you have in the market now black-eyed beans being industrially cleaned with the skin taken off, and you have this as the end product, dried, and it is possible for you to purchase this from your ethnic retailer and then soak it overnight. And when you soak it overnight, you get the beans looking like this. You can then go on to blend it and you have the bean paste. But beautifully and fortunately, you now have bean flours. The bean flour you can get very easily in most ethnic retail outlets, and this is a time saver. It makes it very easy for you to produce Moi-Moi in half the time it used to take in the past. So I have here about 750 grams of bean flour, and this is going to be enough to make 4 average-sized trays of Moi-Moi. Now, the rest of the ingredients, apart from the bean flour, normally you would need to blend onions, tomatoes, and make a tomato sauce, which you would then incorporate into the bean paste to make the Moi-Moi bean pudding. But beautifully, the cuisine is moved on again. So you now have the Alafia tomato cooking sauce, which allows you to just tip the cooking sauce into the bean paste. And so you have chefs and households being able to produce the delicious Moi-Moi dishes in a fraction of the time it used to take traditionally to prepare Moi-Moi. So I'm just going to show you how to use the tomato cooking sauce to make a splendid. I'll just tip it into the mixing bowl. Some flours are heavier than others, and you might find that you're needing more than 1 liter, but I'll just use 1 liter and see how I fare. Essentially what you want is a smooth paste, and then I'll add some salt. It's very important that you add as much salt as is required. I think for 750 grams of bean flour, probably 3 level teaspoonfuls of salt should suffice. And then I'll stir. And then at this juncture, I'll introduce some vegetable cooking oil. You want about 200 ml roughly of vegetable cooking oil. So that quantity of cooking oil, and then you stir it in. I'm going to tip in a jar of the Alafia tomato cooking sauce. Is what caterers use to produce this bean pudding dish, which is eaten throughout the length and breadth of Nigeria in a fraction of the normal time it would normally take to prepare this dish, so that instead of having to fry your onions, tomatoes for hours and get it all blended together, all you do is you just use the cooking sauce to prepare the dish in a fraction of the traditional time it takes to get it cooked. I'm changing to a whisk now, and before I begin to whisk, I'll just put some OXO cubes. I have about 4 of them here, because you find that beans tends to require quite a considerable amount of seasoning, otherwise it's rather bland when you've cooked it, and we don't want that. You could also use meat stock if you prefer, but in the absence of meat stock or chicken stock, I'm just going to use the OXO cubes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the paste essentially vegetarian, and then we'll scoop out onto one cooking tray the vegetarian version, and then the other version will have some corned beef pieces in it. So I'm just going to, I want an emollient paste, a smooth paste. Now I am very happy with the way the paste is turned out now. It's silky, it's nice and it's smooth. I've got my baking tray here, which I'm going to use as a bain-marie. Now I'm going to get my foil containers, and as I said earlier on, I'm going to have one vegetarian and the other one I'm going to put the pieces of corned beef into the second one, so that your guests who want to eat meat can eat that version, and your vegetarian friends can have the other option. Now it's important that the foil trays are well oiled, so that the pudding comes out very easily at the end of the cooking period. So I'm just going to very carefully oil these containers, especially the sides. It's equally important that the lid, and what you want is you want the glossy side of the lid oiled as well. Some lids tend to have a white side and a glossy side, or a foiled side. It's the foiled side that you put onto the paste before you put it in the oven to cook. So this is the glossy side. On other occasions you might have the foil side, and that is where you want the oil to go on. And then I now use this ladle to scoop some of the bean paste into the foil containers like so. This one, I think I'll make this one vegetarian option. So I'm just going to leave some room for the pudding to expand as it cooks. So I'll seal this down like I'm doing now, and I'll move this aside, and then the other one, which is the one that is going to have the corned beef pieces in it, I am now attending to. Now I'm just going to put the chunks of meat in